Well, butter my biscuit. Dolly here, switchboard to L.A. We got stories backed up, and today, sugar, every single one of them is from the Am I the Asshole files. 5 calls queued up, 5 celebrities ready to judge. Let's get into it, darling. First up, honey, we got a man who didn't exactly jump for joy when his in-laws dropped a pregnancy announcement and his wife has cancer. This one's got layers. Let me get Hank Hill on the line for this one.
Hank Hill speaking.
Hank, darling, I got a fella on the line. His wife has been real sick. They can't have kids, and her family threw a surprise pregnancy reveal that went sideways in a big way. I need your honest take, hon.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dolly. Lay it on me. I've been dealing with Dale's nonsense all morning, so I got patience to spare. All right, so this fellow's wife, she got real sick a few years back, the bad kind of sick, and the treatments she had to go through mean they can't try for kids. Not now, maybe not ever. That's a heavy thing for a family to carry. Real heavy. Now hold on just a dadgum minute. Peggy and I went through some hard seasons too. And I tell you what, you don't just pretend the hard thing isn't there. You acknowledge it. That's called being a decent human being. So the wife's brother invites him to a family dinner. Twice, actually. Both times the wife gets sick, real sick, fever and all. And instead of being concerned, the brother gets huffy about it. Starts insinuating, maybe it ain't a real illness. As if a man would lie about his wife having a fever. Sweet Lord, that boy had the audacity of a man who's never had to sit in a hospital waiting room. I tell you what, I once drove Peggy 40 miles with a pulled back muscle because she needed me there. You don't question a man's wife's fever, ever. They finally make it to the third dinner. Everything seems fine. Then the family pulls out a gift box, wants to record everyone's reactions on their phones, which already feels weird and French to me, and inside is a pregnancy test. The wife starts crying. The husband is trying to hold it together. Now recording a man's private emotional moment without his say-so. That ain't celebration, that's entertainment. Bobby would never set up cameras on somebody else's grief. That's just not how we do things in Ireland. And then the brother says out loud, right there at the dinner table, "Now you know why I was upset you kept missing the dinners, like you'd been holding that little speech ready." The husband said, not so politely, that a phone call would have done just fine. The whole room went quiet. I tell you what, that brother lit a match in a room full of propane and then acted surprised when something caught fire. If he was going to make a big production, he needed to think about who was in the room. That's just basic consideration, dadgummit. The wife gets a fever again, stress'll do that, and they have to leave. Now the husband's wondering if he's the bad guy for not grinning ear to ear through the whole thing. He says himself he should probably apologize, and he might owe a small one, but so does everybody else at that table. You know, they say regret is knowing what you should have done differently. That family should have made a phone call. Simple, clean, no cameras, like propane, efficient, considerate, no mess. Now listen here, that husband is not the asshole. Not the main one anyway. He let his emotions out at a bad moment, sure, and maybe he could have chosen better words. Peggy's taught me that much. But nobody in that room stopped to think, hey, maybe a surprise pregnancy announcement filmed on a phone is not the right move for a couple who can't have children. That's not mean-spirited ignorance, but it is ignorance. In Ireland, we think before we act. We have a conversation at the kitchen table, not a surprise reveal with cameras rolling. This whole situation could have been avoided with one dadgum phone call. The brother knew for months. A simple heads up. Hey, we got some news. Wanted you to know privately first. That's what a good family does. Instead, he turned his sister's pain into a TikTok moment. That ain't right. That ain't right at all. That boy needs to apologize to his sister, his brother-in-law, and frankly to the concept of good manners itself.
Bless his heart. All right, next call, office drama. Sugar, a woman's got a coworker who can't stop grabbing things out of her hands, and she's had enough. Let me ring up Morgan Freeman for this one.
Hello, Dolly.
Morgan, honey, I've got a workplace story for you. A woman, a grabby coworker, and a bag of chips that met a tragic end. Go right ahead, sweetheart.
Ah, the workplace, that great theater of human patience and its inevitable limits. Go on, then. There is in a modest office somewhere in this vast country a woman of 36 years who has reached the end of her considerable rope. Her colleague, a man of 58, affectionately known around the office as Goldfish George, has a peculiar habit. He takes things, not maliciously, simply reflexively. Snacks, pens, files, whatever is nearest. What he did not know is that the universe keeps a ledger, and somewhere in that ledger a line item had been accumulating for quite some time under the name George. She had spoken to George about this more than once, with patience, with clarity, even with analogies involving wallets to help him understand the distinction between what is offered and what is taken. George would nod. George would agree. And then George would, in the fullness of about 48 hours, take her gum again. One must pause to consider the definition of insanity as it applies to workplace negotiations with a man called Goldfish. The breaking point arrived in the form of a pen. She was filling out a form, a mundane, necessary form, the kind that holds civilization together, and George reached across, plucked the pen from between her very fingers, and left a great swooping ink mark across the page, because he had a very important idea that could not wait 3 seconds. And here, dear listener, the story turns. She decided that George would learn by experience what he had failed to learn by conversation. She would simply snatch back. The following day, in the break room, George took a bag of communal chips from her hands. She took it back, calmly, and said, "Ask, please." George, in a response that surprised everyone, including George, grabbed the bag with such force that it split open entirely, and chips rained down upon the linoleum like confetti at a very disappointing parade. The human capacity for pettiness is, truly, boundless, though in this particular case it belongs to George, not to her. George told her she had made him feel like a child. She is now wondering if her plan was childish. George cleaned up chips. The office watched. No one said anything, as is the custom. The great river of consequence does not pause to explain itself, George. She is not the asshole. And here is why I say that with some confidence. In the grand theater of human conduct, there exists a simple covenant. What belongs to another you ask for. George was told this. George was shown this. George was given the metaphor of the wallet, which is frankly an excellent metaphor, and yet George persisted. Now, was her method precisely elegant? No, but elegance had been tried. Elegance had failed, repeatedly, at the altar of Goldfish George's short-term memory. There are situations where the only language a person comprehends is the language they themselves speak. She spoke it. 1 bag of chips paid the tuition. That is not childish. That is pedagogy. George, incidentally, is nearly retired. The office will survive him. The chips, however, did not.
Ha! Pedagogy, he says. Love that man. Okay, sugar, next one's a boarding school situation. A girl's got a primo dorm and somebody wants it. Let me get Chuck Norris on this call, darling.
Norris.
Chuck, honey, I've got a boarding school story. A student with the best dorm on campus gets asked to give it up, and she's wondering if saying no makes her a bad person. Over to you, sweetheart.
Understood. Go. A girl at a boarding school had the best single room on campus. Private bathroom. No roommate. Quiet location. She got it because she knew someone who told her about it. She planned her schedule around it. She had it locked down year after year. Chuck Norris doesn't pick a dorm room. Dorm rooms apply to live near Chuck Norris. A new girl transferred in. She was autistic. The school had rooms designated for students with disabilities, but apparently none of them had the specific features she needed: window facing a certain way, proximity to the laundry room, that kind of thing. She knocked on the door. She asked politely if they could switch. Chuck Norris has never knocked on a door. Doors open out of respect. The original girl felt guilty. The new girl lives on campus full-time. She's from out of state. The original girl goes home most weekends. The school said she didn't have to switch. There was another open single available if she wanted to move. She thought about it hard. She felt like keeping her room might make her a bad person. Chuck Norris once felt guilty. Once, the guilt immediately apologized. She emailed the new girl before break, said she wasn't going to switch. Then she came back to campus and found her in the cafeteria to say it face to face, because she wanted to be decent about it. The new girl said her original dorm was perfectly fine, no hard feelings, closed. Chuck Norris has never had an awkward conversation. Words rearrange themselves into the right order before Chuck Norris speaks. The internet told her she was wrong. Some of the internet told her she was right. She updated the post asking people to stop saying unkind things about the new girl, who was just asking, as people do. That part was decent. Chuck Norris doesn't need an update post. The situation resolves itself correctly the first time. She is not the asshole. The school has a system. She used the system correctly. The new girl asked. That was also correct. You don't get what you don't ask for. Chuck Norris doesn't ask for things. But that is because Chuck Norris is a special case for everyone else. The rule is, you ask, and the other person answers honestly. That is how civilization functions. She answered honestly. She also told the girl in person, which took more effort than it had to. She went face to face. That is called character. Chuck Norris respects character. Chuck Norris respects a person who says no kindly, more than a person who says yes resentfully. Chuck Norris once said no to gravity. Gravity still holds a grudge. This girl will be fine. Not the asshole. Case closed.
Short and to the point. That's our Chuck. All right, honey, story 4 is a domestic chores disaster that had me rolling my eyes so hard I nearly fell off my chair. Gordon Ramsay, you're up, sweetheart.
Don Gordon here, what is it?
Gordon, darling, I've got a man who does all the cooking and all the dishes for his girlfriend, and she won't do his laundry because, and I quote, she's not his maid. I think you'll have thoughts.
Oh, I have thoughts. Put it through.
Right, so this couple moves in together, and before the boxes are even unpacked, the girlfriend announces she hates cooking and she won't touch the kitchen. Also, she won't do dishes because of her nails. Her nails. I cook with my hands in a 200-degree kitchen on live television, and this woman is worried about her manicure. Bloody hell. I've had prep cooks with third-degree burns asking to finish their station. This woman is afraid of dish soap. The man, to his credit, agreed to handle the entire kitchen, everything, cooking for 2 every single night, washing up, cleaning the stove, the counters, the whole service, daily. In exchange, he thought they'd each take full ownership of their other chores. She'd do laundry, he'd handle something else. Clean, simple, the kind of deal you write on a napkin and shake on. That is a Michelin star negotiation. Clear, balanced, beautiful. On the plate, what she served back was a dog's breakfast. Instead, she said she'd split everything else with him. Laundry, bathrooms, toilets, 50-50. So he's doing 100% of the kitchen and half of everything else. And when he asked her to do his laundry once, she actually said, and I want you to hear this, she said, I am not your maid, to the man who is personally cooking her dinner every night. Oh, for fuck's sake. I've thrown contestants off Hell's Kitchen for less hypocrisy than this. That is raw. That logic is completely dangerously raw. He's now posting on the internet asking if he's being unreasonable. He's questioning himself. This man who comes home and runs a full dinner service for a household of 2 is sitting there wondering if he's the difficult one. She's got him so turned around, he's questioning his own mise en place. You donkey. Not you, sir. Her. She's the donkey. You are the saucier, being told your sauce is the problem by someone who's never touched a pan. He is absolutely, categorically not the asshole. And listen, I've run kitchens, real kitchens, the kind where every station has a role, and if one station decides it hates the heat and won't work the line, the whole service collapses. That's what she's done. She's pulled herself off the line and called it compromise. It is not compromise. It is abdication, dressed up in the language of teamwork. You don't get to say, I hate this chore, so you'll do it, but I want credit for doing my other chores alongside you, as though that's generosity. That's not splitting the load. That's overloading one chef and calling the kitchen balanced. In my restaurant, that person gets 1 warning. 1, then they're gone. He doesn't need a Reddit post. He needs a renegotiation, a real one, where the word nails is not an acceptable answer. I wouldn't accept it from a first-year culinary student. He shouldn't accept it from a partner. The only thing getting cleaned properly in that flat is whatever he washes himself, and that, tragically, is everything.
Gordon never disappoints, sugar. Okay, last call of the day, hon. A woman walks out of brunch on a friend who keeps giving her friendship test. Snoop Dogg, darling, you're the last call on the board.
Uncle Snoop here, what's cracking?
Snoop, baby, I've got a friendship situation. A girl who keeps testing her friend. A restaurant bill that turned into a loyalty exam, and a brunch that ended with somebody walking out. I think this one's right up your alley, honey.
Oh, I already feel the energy on this one, Dolly. Go ahead and lay it on me. So we got 2 friends, young women, 20-something, and one of them call her Stella. She's got this thing where she runs little tests on the friendship. Like, she'll go quiet and see if the other one notices. She'll be upset and not say why, just to see if her girl picks up on it. The other one has told her multiple times, please just talk to me, 'cause just say the thing. No, hold up, testing. Your friend ain't loyalty. That's a toll booth on the road that's supposed to be free. You already know. They go out to dinner with 2 other friends. Bill comes. The girl notices one of Stella's drinks got charged to her tab by mistake. She doesn't make a scene at the restaurant because she doesn't want to stress out the server, which is actually real thoughtful, nephew, and she brings it up outside nice and easy after, real casual. Hey, I think your drink ended up on my bill. That's it. That's a positive energy deposit right there. She kept it calm. She kept it kind. The universe took note. But Stella gets cold immediately, goes quiet. And that night she texts and says she actually knew about the drink charge all along. And she was waiting to see if her friend would just offer to cover it as a thank you for helping her move 2 months ago. 2 months ago, she'd been holding that shit like a coupon she forgot to use, nephew. That's a negative energy deposit with interest. 'Cause you don't invoice your friends for kindness. That ain't how the ledger works. So they agree to meet for brunch the next day to talk it out. Our girl gets there first, orders a coffee, is ready to have a real conversation. But before she can even open her mouth, Stella starts in, says she hopes her friend had time to think about her behavior right out the gate, like she rehearsed it. Big karma energy right there, but it's all flowing the wrong direction for real. So the girl stands up, pays for a coffee, and leaves. She texts Stella later and says she's done with the test done being made into the villain and she can't be friends with someone who won't communicate like an adult. Stella didn't respond to that, far as we know. The story just kind of ends there, hanging in the air. Sometimes the universe just lets the receipt sit on the table, nephew. Somebody's got to pick it up eventually. See, here's what I know about this whole situation. Energy is a currency. I've said this before and I'll say it again. When you love somebody, real love, you give freely. You don't keep a ledger. You don't set traps and call them tests. That ain't friendship, that's a vibe audit. And nobody signed up for an audit. Now, our girl walked out of brunch, and some people are going to say that was cold, but I say sometimes the most loving thing you can do is put the phone down and stop picking up for somebody who's been dialing the wrong number this whole time. Stella helped her move. That was beautiful. That was real. But the moment you weaponize your own generosity, you didn't give a gift. You made an investment and expected a return. Martha Stewart and I, we've had our misunderstandings, but even she knows you don't charge your guests for the centerpiece after the dinner party. Stella needs to sit with herself and ask why love always comes with an exam. That's not a friendship problem. That's a her problem. Not the asshole, nephew. She walked out with her dignity and her coffee, and that's a W in my book.
That's all 5 calls, Sugar and Honey. What a lineup it was today. Hank, Morgan, Chuck, Gordon, and Uncle Snoop all picking up for y'all. I hope you got your verdicts, darling, because the switchboard is officially closed for the evening. Now y'all be sure to comment who Dolly should bring on next. 100 votes and they get the job, hon.